Pastor? Will y'all remove your hats, please?
Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to take this opportunity to honor the Lord and open our meeting with some prayer. Okay, let's pray. Lord, thank you so much for this wonderful evening that we have. Lord, thank you for the free time that you've given each and every person here, Lord, just to be here. Lord, we want to honor you first. Lord, we want to make it a point to recognize you, acknowledge that you are the Creator. Lord, you're the one that enables us, that gives us the ability to live, to breathe, to be alive today, Lord. Some may be sick, some may be hurting, Lord. We just pray for healing. We pray that you would be with each and every person that's going to speak tonight. Lord, just give them wisdom. Help them to speak those things that are on their heart. Lord, help us to be able to understand those things, Lord, so that we can make good decisions come time to vote, Lord. Help us, Lord, as Republicans, Lord, to get more people out to exercise their right to vote, Lord, this coming election, Lord. And we just ask that you would put some people in place, Lord, that are going to lead in the way that you would honor you, Lord, in a way that would protect our rights, Lord, in a way that would help us as American citizens, Lord, to make progress, to feed our families, Lord, to maintain our livelihood, Lord, to maybe even better our livelihood, Lord. And we just want to ask, God, that you would give each and every person, each and every voter wisdom, Lord, as we do exercise those things, Lord. We ask that you would help our country to turn back, Lord, to you, to a country full of free people, Lord, that are free to honor you, free to worship you, Lord, free to do what they need to do, Lord. And we just thank you so much for your goodness to us each and every day. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Paula, second vice chair. She's doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
State salutation.
The flag of the state of New Mexico is the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. You ought to bear with us with our new sound system that we borrowed. Our last one was relieved of us when we were broke into. Yeah, and the last sound system actually was borrowed. Kevin, they relieved him of it and relieved us of it, and he just happened to have just enough to patch it together so we can do what we're doing today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Our elected officials, Sheriff David Black, Representative Harlan Vincent, Representative Jim Townsend, County Treasurer Laura Whiteside, Senator Ron Griggs, Senator Bill Burt, Judge John Seacrest, Probate Judge Latanya Boise, Commissioner Amy Brella, Mayor Pro Tem Jim Maynard. That is from Cloudcroft. Cloudcroft Treasurer Gail McCoy. Trustee. Representative John Block. Cloudcroft Mayor Turner. Judge Richard Green. Judge. What's that, Judge Ryan? He's a candidate. My note maker. Raise your hand anyway, since we're talking about you. Tim King Cloudcroft, trustee. Nick Paul, City Commissioner. Harlan Gordon. And up here in the front row, I just wanted to say thank you, Chaparral, for coming on down and getting involved with our party. That is a first. Now we'll get to the candidates. Let's see how bad I can do that one. Yvette Harold, U.S. Representative. Rachel Black for County Treasurer. Elizabeth Windrow, State Representative. County Treasurer Carl Melton. Jim Townsend, State Senate. We also have the FRW here. Will you stand up? I know, I seen one here. Oh, there's it. And that one over there. Well, you're supposed to actually like stand and wave, not just. And we also have Commissioner Gerald Matherly. Okay, the Otero County primary convention delegates have been registered and paid for the state convention, March 2nd. Movie night, we have a movie. We're doing movie nights now. You can see that on the tables. Out of the Shadows. That's on Thursday, which is next week, right?
Yes, next week.
Yeah. Headquarters was broken into, and we are. We'll see what insurance will do. I don't know. You know, we bought the cheapest insurance there was, and how that goes. Donations would be greatly needed.
We're about $3,500 in losses right now.
Yeah, $3,500 in losses, and a lot of that was actually donated to us, and it's not actually like ours. We were borrowing it. But thank you if you give us a donation. Next meeting in March the 28th, we will, after everybody has declared candidacy, we will be doing that at that meeting. Selena Mays for County Clerk is our other one. Okay. So we're going to call Jim Townsend up here to tell us about everything that they did up there, because I know they fought pretty hard this whole time. And remember, Jim Townsend is moving from representative to senator, so keep that in mind. Moving on up.
I love going first. there'll be a ton of comments, so I'm gonna try to keep mine to thought. There were 4 bills that I thought were probably the hardest fought and the most impactful, had they passed or whether they did or not. First one was HB 41, Clean Fuels Bill. It's a bill that creates a commodity, a carbon tax, that will be embedded in fossil fuels and probably won't see the impact of it until late 25, early 26. But in Oregon, Washington, and California, where similar programs have been introduced, it's around 50 cents a gallon increase in fuel prices, gasoline and diesel. So, didn't have a single Republican vote in the House or the Senate or any committee. Not one. And yet it passed. Now it's sitting on the governor's desk today. The other one that I had some conversations with some in this room was SB 3, which was the Family Leave Act bill. That bill passed the Senate, originated in the Senate, passed in the Senate, came over to the House, was debated for 3 hours in the House. And we were able to kill that in the House on a 36-34 vote, which was really kind of interesting and unique because there were 11 conservative Democrats that came across and voted with all the Republicans to kill that. There was, I think, 3 bills that went through the House this year that were 36, 33, 35, I mean, really close votes. And for me, I love that because that tells me that people are working together for the people. And in this case, we had conservative Democrats that were taking a stand for their businesses and their communities, coming across and helping kill or pass bills. And you know, that's I think that for me that's really heartwarming when you see people not party line voting so much as they're voting for their constituents. So that was a really good bill to kill. The whole time we were debating that, the governor and her staff were out in the hall pulling reps out one at a time, you know, shaking them down, twisting their arm. They came back in, you know, sweat and blood, but thank goodness they held the line. And we lost a couple through that whipping that was going on out in the hall, but in the end, we were successful. The other one that I think, I see some healthcare providers here, SB 17, great bill. If you don't know it, about 2/3 of the hospitals in New Mexico right now are underwater. That cannot be sustained. And it's not good for the population because it shows a diminished healthcare capacity in New Mexico. And I don't know about you, but healthcare every day gets more and more important to me personally and to our families, especially when you realize that people are having to go as an alternative to staying home and supporting a local business or hospital. They wind up making the decision to go to Lubbock or Albuquerque or El Paso because they think they have better health care there. So I think SB 17 was a good deal. There was a tax package. John, you may want to talk about that. I'll leave it open, but tax package, there was some good there's some good and some bad in the tax package, so Senator Griggs got, a exemption bill in the tax package that helps small producers in New Mexico, those that have, production of, I think it's 3 BOE, barrel of oil equivalent, in New Mexico. It's a great bill. Probably the best thing about it is when you look, there's about 14,000 of these small oil and gas wells in New Mexico. Even though their production is very small, 3 barrels a day or less, the income generated to the state is still in the hundreds of millions of dollars annually. So that bill that Ron, I think, introduced last year for the first time, got it through this year, got it on the tax package, is going to be instrumental in getting small producers to put environmental equipment on wells that, quite frankly, probably wouldn't have it installed without it, and it extends the life of that well, so the state's gonna continue to make money for a long period of time. It's a great bill. It's a good thing. Generally, I will tell you this, that I saw, having served 4 years as a Republican leader on the House floor, and then this year I served as whip, I saw the Progressive Democrat Party do a better job of choreographing their layout. You saw SB3, a low number, got to committee first. HB 41, low number, got to committee early. SB 133, opening up the Oil and Gas Act, was a bad bill, got in committee early. They did a better job of getting that very progressive agenda into committee very early, so it came to the House floor early enough that they had a chance to get it out. I think what kind of backfired on them was that heaviness of those progressive agendas caused many of their members to kind of pull back and say, wait a minute, we're going into an election year and this is all really radical stuff, and it's gonna be hard on us going into an election cycle. So I think that's part of what helped us on SB3. You know, but I cannot discount the effort of the public on SB3. I mean, we were getting hundreds of emails and phone calls every day. I had I had a man from Alamogordo that called me during that debate. How can I help? I gave him 2 reps that I knew were on the fence. Said, you have these emails? He said, I sure do. I'll take care of that right now. And I watched, and about 45 seconds later, I saw one on his phone buzz. They picked it up and they read an email. So it makes a difference. That lady the next day introduced a bill that exempted healthcare providers. And I told him, good news and bad news. You got an exemption amendment and I'm gonna have to kill it. And because if we had let the exemption go through, we would have lost part of the 11 votes that we had on the Democrat side to kill the bill, and it would have very likely passed. So we killed the amendment on a vote and then killed the bill after that, which is a win for everybody in New Mexico. I have to tell you also, looking at this room, it is really refreshing to see this. At lunch today, I spoke in Roswell to a crowd just like this. People are coming out, they're interested, they're energized, they know how close they came to losing liberties and gun bills and in taxes this last year, and so everybody's energized. Please, stay focused. Go vote in November. Because many of the things that we killed this year, if we don't get the votes, we won't be able to stop them next year. Thank you so much for allowing me to serve you.
Harlan, Vincent, will you please come on up?
Better raise that
Thank you, everyone. Sure does feel good to be home, I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, so I'm gonna give you some good news first. So when you get it, I'm gonna give you a snapshot of the whole time we were there. There's a time, about the second week, I believe, where the House of Representatives, after you've already gone through a bunch of bad bills and your tempers are kind of flaring just a little bit, you get to have a basketball game with the Senate. And it raises money for Cowboys for Cancer research. So it's we used to go and go to those Cowboys for Cancer's team ropings, and they made a little bit, but this one, I want to say this year made like $52,000 for cancer victims. So I just wanted to jump out there and tell you, since Senator Griggs is here and soon to be Senator Townsend, we whooped the crap out of those senators. We got them good. So the House of Representatives has all the trophies in the House. We're going to keep them there for a while.
All right.
Then we got back to business, and so as Representative Townsend was talking about, I'm on the Health and Human Services Committee, and all of the Paid Family Medical Leave Act bills came through my committee, all three of them. One was kind of hijacked, and it probably should not have gone through the healthcare or the health committee. However, things are not the way they look up there, and there's backdoor deals done, and we had some leadership, and our leadership stood up and told the speaker that last bill on paid family medical leave should not be going through the health committee. It should be going through our commerce committee. We did not get our way, and it went through the health committee anyways. Now, the refreshing thing about it is, when you think about the Paid Family Medical Leave Act, there was a room full of people in our committee just like this. There wasn't an empty seat. Now, all the people that were for the Paid Family Medical Leave Act was employees. Now, I want to throw this on you so you really get a good snapshot of it. You take somebody that works for a municipality, and all of the Paid Family Medical Leave Act that they are entitled to now, they get their sick leave. Now they're entitled to 3 additional months. Okay, that's on a municipality side. So do you think, out of all the employees in a municipality, and if there's municipality employees in here, I'm not looking at you, but I was one for 25 years, do you not think that they're going to abuse that system? 3 months on top of the sick leave that you already get now. So the problem is, the way it was written in the book, and this is how poorly written it was, is if you don't know what the definition of affinity means, it's just a connection. That's all it is. It doesn't mean we have to be family. It doesn't have to be anything like that. We just have to be connected. So, for example, I met JP about 2 years ago. We're not kin. I don't know him real well.
But we're close.
But we're close.
We're close.
So, if JP was stressed out at work, and I mean that legitimately, if he's stressed out at work, if he's anxious, and he can get a doctor's note to say that he's anxious, he doesn't go to the supervisor, he doesn't even go to HR. He goes to Workforce Solutions, makes the deal there, comes back, advises his supervisor that he's gonna be gone for 3 months. Then he calls me up and said, hey, it went through, and since we're affinity, I've got to go and take care of him. So I need to tell my supervisor, and I can go to his doctor and I can get a note, and I need to go and take care of him for 3 months, and it just happens to be right there around hunting season for 3 months. Now, you don't tell me people are going to abuse that? And we just kept, the good thing about it is we just kept poking holes and poking holes and poking holes in it. Now, that's a municipality. Now, step down to the small business people. There was a gentleman that come in there for testimony, and he told my whole committee, I'm as left as the left gets. I'm as progressive as they come. But I'm a jeweler here in Santa Fe, and I make my living from September to the end of February. That's where all my magic happens. And what we forget about is skilled labor. So the way this bill's written, if his employees know that that's gonna be the busy season between between September and the end of February, they can either take the whole 3 months off without going through him, going right through Workforce Solution and advising him they're gonna be off. Where do you find another jeweler? How do you backfill that position? It's impossible. Bless you. It's impossible. And he said this will tear small business completely down. So that was so good to hear that from even the left side. This is not a Republican or a Democrat thing. It's a right and a wrong thing. And yes, I know it'd be good to have 3 additional months off, but ladies and gentlemen, we have to work.
That's right.
And if we're not working, if you don't have employers, you're not gonna have employees.
Right.
And I'm a small business guy, and I've got skilled labor. I mean, it really is skill. It's raking asphalt, but you gotta be really good at it. If one of my guys left during my busy months, I'd be in big trouble. I don't know where to go find some backfill people to work. So when that, do you rake asphalt, ma'am? I'll get your card out. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I don't discriminate either, man, woman, it doesn't matter. I'll take the hands if I can get them. So we sat there and poked holes, and I was so proud of the people that we have in the House, especially the Republicans, because I don't know if y'all watch them, they are the debatingest son of a guns you've ever seen. And they will wear the Democrats completely out. And I like the Democrats. I've learned to be friends with them. Now, I don't like the way they think, but they are good people. I mean, just as people. They don't think exactly right, but they're really good folks. And I've got to be really good friends with a lot of them.
Go to El Paso.
What's that?
Go to El Paso.
Hey, go to El Paso. Go to Santa Fe, man. I bet you we can beat you there. Anyways, they just sat there and they poked holes in these bills, and it went away. And it was a win for New Mexico. It really was. The second thing that I was super proud about, which, our Republicans fought so hard for your gun rights. I don't know if I've ever seen, this is only my second year, that was a dogfight. And I went and watched all those gun bills in the committees, and Representative Lord and Representative Block, they fought for your gun rights. I'm telling you, they fought them hard, and I'm going to tell you, yes, they fought them hard and they fought them heavy, and they knew the rules. And when they were gavelled down, they come back at them and showed them rules, and they left them alone. So, after we went, I don't know, till like almost 4 o'clock that one morning, I think they figured out maybe the Republicans do have some energy over there. And whenever I walked into the House lounge, and I mean this respectfully, it looked literally like a drug den in there. And all the people were laid up all over the couches, all over the floors, and they had had enough. And I just thought, man, we're gonna win. We're gonna win, because we usually get beat on everything. And like the party line votes was mentioned earlier, when they vote party line votes, they know that it makes perfect sense. They just won't vote that way. It's a party line vote, and we're gonna lose every time because we're outnumbered. So when Representative Townsend was just telling you to get out and vote, not only am I gonna get out and vote, I'm motivated between Las Cruces, Albuquerque, that Bernalillo area. If we could change 10 to 12 seats, we wouldn't get beat up as bad. But we were outnumbered and we still won.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of effort. And I'm talking like the 15 to 17, 18 hour days. And I don't know if you've ever sat in a chair and just had your mind spinning trying to figure out how to debate stuff for 18 straight hours. But it's not a physical job. It just mentally wears you out. And that's why we're so excited to come home at the end. But we did celebrate at the end. And we did our press conference, and at the end when I was driving home, I thought, man, we left Santa Fe with all those scary gun bills that were on the table that never saw the light of day. 2 of them went through, but they had amendments put on them to where you might not be able to go down and buy a gun today, right now, today, but if you have a concealed carry permit, you can do it today. So what does that do? It just encourages us to go out and get our concealed carry permits. You're going to get to keep your liberties. They took a little bit away, but all you got to do is, I guess you got to pay the states $25 and you get your liberty back. And I hate to pay for my liberties, but I'll take the $25 and get my liberties back, because I'm a spontaneous person. When I go into a gun store, if I see something that's super sexy in there that I have to have right now, I just throw my concealed carry permit out there and I get to buy it right now. Now, I'm going to tell you one more bill, but I want to give you another example on the 14-day. So, since Sheriff Black's in the room, I want to tell you, Sheriff Black, he's a law enforcement officer, and let's just pretend I'm one. Sheriff Black needs a weapon, and I've got one. And I sell him my pistol. There does not have to be any background check. No transfer, no nothing. Now, I can't give it to him. I have to sell it to him for $1. Okay, ridiculous. But I sell it to him for $1. He doesn't have to go through a background check, but whenever I go to the gun shop, to the FFL, and I just say I'm a state cop, and I take care of all New Mexicans, I have to have a 7-day waiting period. Now, does that make any sense at all? And when you sit there and debate that, and these people are just hard-headed, they're just going by straight party line votes, it's so irritating because it makes 0 sense. Okay, I'm going to get off of that. The other thing I wanted to tell you about, or there's 2 more bills that I'm really proud of, and one is the firefighter. I'm an old fire chief, retired fire chief, and they had a firefighter recruitment and retention bill that came to the floor. And I had been talking to the state fire marshal's office, and ladies and gentlemen, 3 of our rural fire departments in New Mexico have closed their doors because they can't find the volunteers. What's happening here in Otero County? I know what's happening here. I've looked at some of the rosters, and the youngest volunteer that some of these places have is 70 years old. So we were able to there was a bill that came across. It was a $35 million recruitment and retention for paid and volunteer firefighters. So what we're trying to do is, maybe if we have some volunteers that are in these locations that would like to become paid firefighters, they will, the first year, they'll pay 75% of the wages. The second year, they'll pay 50% of the wages. And the third year, they'll pay 25% of the wages, and then the rest falls on the municipality or county that it serves. So what we were trying to do, well, they stripped out 30 million, so they only let us have 5 million. Well, we ran an amendment because it was only firefighters. And the rural areas do need firefighters, but we really need EMTs. So we were able to put an amendment on there to where that money would train firefighters and EMTs, so we can get some of our rural places covered so that they are able to serve their communities. Now I want you to just think for a minute. Anybody that lives out in a rural area and something has gone wrong and you call 911, how would you like to know that nobody's coming? And 3 places right now have no fire and no EMS. Rural areas. That means you're not getting any coverage. You're not getting any help. So you better phone a friend. You better have somebody there that can take you to the hospital. And if you're 20 minutes out, it's going to be a bad day. We are way better than that. We have to recruit and retain these first responders to make sure that everybody is covered. So we were able to put the EMT in there. They added 30 million back to it. So now we have the $35 million. So Otero County, if you are hurting in the rural places, DFA, you can apply through them, and you can start to build your staff up. The third thing, there's so many things, but I'm just going to highlight this one. The third one is the meat inspection bill that went through. So I don't know if you know how big that was. Will the governor sign that? You think she'll sign it? Okay. So we don't have to wait for USDA to inspect all the meat around here. So now we can inspect it. Hopefully when they get it all set up, we can inspect our own New Mexico beef. So all your ranchers and stuff that you know, they're going to be able to sell their product to you guys. They can have it cut up and you can actually buy it, right? I mean, it's the freshest meat that you can buy. Now, one thing that I did, and I did it for Mescalero, because they're in Otero. I did it for Mescalero. So this year, I've got a constituent back home that is so worried about feeding people. And he keeps saying, if something goes wrong and there's no groceries coming in, how are we going to feed people? Because they're going to be looking at elected officials whenever there's nothing on the shelves. So I started thinking, and I got approached by Mescalero, and we funded them a greenhouse. So this greenhouse, their students are going to run vegetables through this greenhouse, and they're going to run it through their cafeterias and start feeding people. If we get this meat inspection deal done, they're going to be able to cut their own meat, and Mike Gaines is one of the best FFA teachers that I know, and he worked over in Carrizozo, and he cut meat for years and taught kids how to cut meat. They're going to be able to take Mescalero beef from the Mescalero cattle growers, run it through that meat lab, and they're going to be able to feed their children, and their children's going to be doing all the work. Can you imagine us actually doing something and feeding ourselves? I think that's outstanding. If it works, we're going to do it I want to do it with every single school in our district, to where they can all do that kind of stuff. And hopefully we can set a little trend, and maybe if the trucks can't get here and we can't get food put on the shelves, maybe we go to our local high school and get some food. Wouldn't that be a deal? And that was the one thing that I was super proud of. So if I'm going to keep reporting that and see how Mescalero does, and if they continue to make that operation good, then they're getting a meat lab next year, and then we're going to see how it works and start Well, with the help of my senators now, they get way more money than I do. If I can get them to give me a little handshake loan, maybe we can get them in all of our districts. And that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Next, we have John Block. If you haven't ever watched him, he has a silver tongue. He can just talk and talk and talk, and you watch that clock go. It is amazing. That is definitely his gift.
We must be related.
I think we are related. You know, I'm a little shorter than Harlan, so, you know. But thank you so much. And first of all, I just want to say thank you. What a blessing it is to be able to serve Alamogordo, the legislature. And I'm just blessed by all of you. So just give yourselves a round of applause for all your work. So, yeah, you've got the most annoying representative up there for the Democrats. You know, I do like to talk to the Democrats about how terrible their bills are, and I'm sure that they don't like it very much. But you know, I do my research, and I like to make sure that we vet bills properly, right? I think that's an important thing that we should do as a legislature. We need to know what's in the bill. If I don't read every single word of that bill, I am voting no. And sometimes that drives the Democrats crazy, but I'll be the one no vote on a bill if it means it's going to be a really bad bill that I don't like, that is going to hurt Otero County. So I know we really went through some of the bills that we've already put forward that passed and died. I'm just going to go through a couple that I think we missed. So SB 5 is the bill that essentially bans you from having a firearm at the polling place. They thought this was a very important bill, I guess. You know, we have CYFD broken, we are 52nd in education, but you know, let's ban you from carrying a gun at the polling place, even though that's literally never happened in the history of the state of someone pulling a gun on a poll worker. But I call it stop and frisk at the polls, because how do you enforce it other than stopping and frisking everybody who goes to vote, which is actually voter suppression, and it's against democracy, as they like to say, right? Well, we passed that, but we did get a carve out for concealed carry, so you could still concealed carry to the polls. They might frisk you and find out, but that's gonna happen. So unfortunately that passed, but we did get it so weakened that it's pretty much not even really a thing. So that's one good thing that we did to amend it. It's a bad bill. All the anti-gun bills, they put forward, I think it was 12 or 15 anti-gun bills this year. 12 or 15 of those suckers. And I sit on the Consumer and Public Affairs Committee, and I actually requested that committee. It's essentially a committee where everything that we like goes to die, and everything that they like gets passed immediately. So myself and Representative Lord, as Representative Harlan and Vincent talked about, we talked for hours and hours and hours in that committee about how terrible some of these bills are. And you know, the sponsor last year, she told us in that committee something that the governor actually just said when she put her unconstitutional executive order. She said, "No right is absolute." That's what she said last year. And I told her, well, then you shouldn't be able to vote, and we're all gonna own slaves then? And she's like, well, you know, I guess so, since no right is absolute. So that's the mindset. I'm just trying to get you in the mood. That's the mindset of what we're up against here. So we had bills that would ban anything that's gas-operated firearm. That means pretty much most rifles, most firearms, period, would have been banned with that. And they said, well, there's an exception. You could voluntarily get on a list with the government and register your firearm. How have lists worked in the past, right? When I'm on a list, I know that's not gonna be secure, and I know the government's gonna come take my firearm. So we killed that bill, it died. But I'll tell you how we killed that bill and a few other bad bills. In the first couple weeks of the session, myself, Representative Lord, Representative Townsend, a few other folks who were chatterboxes, so to speak, we talked a lot, until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning about bills. One day I debated a bill that I had never read in my life. It was 8 pages, It was about police officers. I love police officers, by the way. They're great. Let's give them a hand. We love police officers. But this bill was kind of a terribly written bill, but I love it because it was about police officers. So I talked about it for an hour and a half on House floor because we needed to stall bills and we needed to show them that we could do it. We could kill bills, and we were happy to do 3 hours on every single bill unless they came to the table and helped kill some of these bad bills. So some of the bills that they put forward, I mean, just the worst things you could possibly see. I mean, they had taking away the Second Amendment rights of 18-year-olds to 20-year-olds. Take it away. Even if you own the firearm, you are forced to sell it to somebody else because you no longer would have had the right to own a firearm. So there's one thing, what a great way to kill the Gen Z vote, right? I'm the first Gen Z ever elected in the state, and from here in Ontario County, by the way. So I'm the youngest guy up there in the legislature, so we need some more young blood up there, too. But some of these bills, I mean, they create a registry. They would have created an Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So essentially, an office to come snatch your guns, essentially. That didn't pass, right? And we had so many other terrible bills regarding guns, like the red flag expansion. They wanted to expand it to any kind of, if you had a medical provider, and I used this in committee actually, I said, okay, so any medical provider, they just have to say you're crazy, you shouldn't have a gun, and they take it away from you, right? So I said, okay, so if I said this, in Alamogordo, let's just say I got under the feathers of a podiatrist in town, the foot doctor. I don't go to the foot doctor, but let's just say I pissed him off or something. If he didn't like me, he could sign a form that said, John Block is crazy and we need to take away his guns. Send it into the county sheriff, and then that would be processed, and my guns would be taken away on a red flag charge.
And so will you.
Yep. And so that died, thank God, because we made it sound so crazy that no one could possibly want to do that. And then, we did win some victories this year. I think it's easy to say, well, the sky is falling and we are outnumbered, and I know that's a good cover for a lot of politicians to say we were outnumbered, that's why we didn't do anything, but we did a lot of real good things in the legislature. We killed a lot of bad bills, and I mean a lot of them. There were, I believe, about 500 bills that were sponsored this year, and about 72 passed. Of the 72, about 5 to 7 of those bills are bad bills. Maybe 9, including the budget, right? There's always something in that horrific budget that I will never vote for, by the way. So, the anti-oil and gas bills, we talked about that. They passed a bill to increase gas prices by 50 cents on the gallon. 50 cents. We're going to see that. If that bill gets signed by the governor, we will see that. And it's not only on gas, it's on everything we buy, because it's about transportation fuels. Where are these companies going to put those costs back to actually get in the black at the end of the day? I'm telling you, it's going to be us, the taxpayers. So expect more prices to go up at the grocery store. Expect, let's just say you're a contractor, all those supplies that you need to build houses and do maintenance, that's all going to go up. Every roll of toilet paper, you're going to pay more dollars and cents for that. And Lord knows how that happened in the COVID pandemic, right? Toilet paper was like gold back then. It's going to be platinum with this new bill, unfortunately. So, horrible. But there were a lot of anti-gun bills, a lot of anti-energy bills. There were 3. It was a trio of anti-gun bills to essentially create a radius around any kind of oil production that would make it for the children, right? It's always for the children. Yeah. Well, it's for the children. We're going to ban oil production from anywhere kids live or are near. I believe it was like 50 miles or something crazy like that. And so we killed that bill, so at least we still have our gravy train with the oil and gas production in the state, and we're blessed to have that. We killed a bill in the Senate, actually. The senators, I give the senators a lot of crap, but they do a lot of good work. They killed a bill in the Senate that would have banned any detention facility from holding criminal illegal aliens who come into the country illegally. And it was a miracle, I'm sure, on the Senate floor when they killed that bill on the floor. And like Representative Townsend said, it's rare we see something killed on the floor itself. If you're a good leader, you never bring a bill forward on the floor knowing it could die. But that's what they did, because they got desperate and they wanted to get their agenda across the finish line. And we did not let them do that. So in the Senate, I'll give them a little praise, I give them crap, but 50%. So yeah, we talked a little bit about the paid family medical leave. I think Harlan really covered that one. That was a terrible bill. And then also, I want to talk about a bill that I sponsored that I was actually blessed to actually pass the legislature. I was one of the co-sponsors of HB 302, and this bill, it essentially fixes our statutes to make it more military friendly in our communities. So in the state of New Mexico, our laws are so archaic, we always have to keep on going back and forth and back and forth. So this actually would help keep Holloman Air Force Base here in our community, because it would increase it would pretty much say, welcome here, military families, we want you here. We're gonna make it easy for you to live here. And so in that bill, we amended multiple places in state law to allow a military status as a protected class, along with many other classes, so that you cannot be discriminated against when it comes to renting. When it comes to daycare, anything that you need, you're not gonna be discriminated against because you're technically not a resident of the state because you're a military family. And that's going to benefit every single person who's touched by the base. And that's every one of us here, because that base is the heartbeat of our community. And so we passed that bill. We also added amendments to include this Space Force that President Trump created, by the way. So we did a lot of good with that bill, and it passed. So that was really good. Representative Duncan, he sponsored a bill that I really love. I love Smokey Bear. Who loves Smokey Bear here? Right? Who doesn't like Smokey Bear? It would create a Smokey Bear license plate. It got vetoed last year by the governor, but thank God it got passed this year, and let's cross our fingers and toes that woman doesn't veto it again. But that really is a good bill, and that passed as well.
Hey,
And
give McQueen a little bit for that.
oh yeah, well there's this Democrat. His name is Representative Matthew McQueen. He is a
License plate
He's
hater.
an interesting person. He hates license plates. He hates them. I don't know why, but he hates license plate bills. He just hates them. And I think it was a historic moment in the history of this state. He voted yes for a license plate bill, because who can say no to Smokey Bear? Right? Thank God. And then another bill that, like the bill I was talking about, HB 193, that's the one that we were talking up for a couple hours. That passed. That includes another additional $1 million to the Law Enforcement Recruitment Fund that helps recruit law enforcers, because we love Sheriff Black, and we love all the folks in the Alamogordo PD and everybody in our county who is keeping us safe. So we're blessed to pass that. And I don't think there's too many other bills here. Oh, there was one bill that they increased the amount that they can raid from the permanent fund for it's the Early Childhood Permanent Fund. I don't know if we all know about that, but it's essentially socialist free daycare, unfortunately. They're gonna raid that by $250 million extra a year. There's about $10 billion in there now, so it'll last a few weeks. I mean, maybe a couple years, but they're gonna take it away, and so they're essentially making that fund insolvent. So that's another bill that we voted against, and we tried to stop. And so, there are a lot of bad bills that did get passed, but we need to talk about the victories too. Yeah. And those victories wouldn't be possible without people like myself, Representative Vincent, Representative Townsend, Senator Griggs, Senator Burt, and so many of the other colleagues that we have in the legislature who fight day in and day out for your rights. We do not sleep many times because we're fighting so hard for our communities. And so when I drove back here and I saw that beautiful white mountain that we have at Sierra Blanca, I almost shed a tear knowing I was back home and we brought home some victories. So I want to thank every one of you for staying involved, and I want to just say, stay in the fight. It's a blessing to see so many people here today at this meeting. Do not give up. Do not stay home. Continue to come here. Fight for the most conservative candidates you can get to be elected, especially in our county. And do what you can to ensure that New Mexico survives. We kept a couple more years on the clock with this session because we fought so hard. But we want to not have to worry so hard about counting votes. We want to be in the majority someday. So let's help us get there, and how we do that is by registering voters, kicking some butt on the campaign trail, and winning for you in Otero County. So thank you, God bless you, and God bless our great country. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to mention that Vicki Marquardt, County Commission, is in the audience. I just wanted to say, after Vincent Harlan was speaking about the bills that they passed, so they could retain volunteer firefighters, because I know that our county commissioners never honk their own horn, but they had passed a deal that if you were a volunteer firefighter, that in Otero County, that there is a little college program that they pay for classes, and if it was a family member, a direct one, they could go to college too to help try to retain. So between the county and our representatives and senators, trying to get our volunteer firefighters, because they do that for free at all hours, trying to retain them. I mean, I'm very proud of them. And the firefighters, that's a tough program, and trying to get youth in there has been tough to get youth to volunteer for anything. And another thing I wanted to ask you, so we have Elizabeth Winterow back there, and most of her district and all that is in Donniana, and then a piece of it comes into Otero County down in Chaparral. And we got representative from Chaparral. This is awesome. We've got folks from Cloudcroft here, we've got Tularosa, and we got Alamogordo. This is quite a good representation of our GOP. And this GOP belongs to you all. But her and also Yvette Harold, we're gonna need people to help volunteer to hang signs, to help them. Not just we give you a sign. We need some people to go out and actually make sure these signs actually go up and then stay up with this wind. Let me tell you, I don't know if your competitor that you're running against during a race is the heart deal or the wind. Because you will put up that sign over and over and over. Well, enough of that. So we are going to go to the Senate. Bill Burt, will you please come on up?
Wow. I am standing up, just so. And thanks, John, for leading. It's kind of the sizing aspect. Harlan, shrink up a little bit, buddy. First and foremost, I want to say thank you very, very much for supporting me and my efforts in Santa Fe and for District 33. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I really love doing this. My wife asks me that quite often, but I do really enjoy it. And if we don't have people in the trenches who are fighting day in and day out to do things that all of us have been talking about so far, it's never going to happen. And I know we've talked about getting out and vote. Well, let me tell you something else that we're going to dig a little bit deeper. Here in southeast New Mexico, we're pretty darn red. But you know what? We get complacent. We sit at home and we think, well, my senator's going to win anyway. He didn't have any competition. My representative is going to win anyway. He doesn't have any competition. So we sit on the couch on election day and don't do anything about that. Shame on you if you do that. And I have no reservation about saying that. Shame on you, because every Republican in southeast New Mexico who votes negates a northern Democrat when they vote. So the more that we do that, the better off we are throughout the entire state. Everybody who's registered has got to get out and vote. Vote early, vote often. You just have to get out and vote. That's the whole thing. So I just wanted to share that a little bit. And this is, as many of you know, I'm on Senate Finance and work with LFC. And so I'm kind of the dry dollars guy.
But I have a few things that I want to share with you tonight about the budget. Many of you have heard me say that if we have $1, we're going to find a way to spend it. And we did a great job of that this year, spending all that money that we found out. Thank you, oil and gas, by the way, once again, because they're the ones who are responsible for all of that. $3.6 billion. Last year, myself and a group of people asked the Budget Committee, Senate Finance, to put $1.5 billion in the permanent fund. Why? Because we had $3.5 billion, so we still left with $2.5 billion to play with a little bit. But more importantly, oil and gas. The industry itself has come to us and said, in 2032, give or take, the taxes off of oil and gas in the state of New Mexico, as much as we produce, will not give us enough money to fill our reoccurring budget for the state of New Mexico. So why wouldn't you, being conservative enough, put money into the permanent fund and let it continue over 10 years or so, develop some interest, and be able to compensate for that? 2023, we end up with another $3.5 billion, asking the same question. Now, in 22, we actually 23, from the 22 budget, we actually put $750 million. That's a lot of money, but it's not enough. And so we continued to ask them again this year, and guess what? We put zero. Put zero out of all that money into the permanent fund. Let me add a little bit of fuel to that fire. So again, knowing full well about 32, we may not be able to make the budget that we have already put together. We also have made promises to New Mexicans, you and I, working people who have worked for the state of New Mexico 20, 25 or plus years. ERB and PERA, the retirement plans for public employees in the state of New Mexico, teachers, public employees and all that stuff, we've made promises to them that that money is going to be there and they can retire and make sure that they get paid every month. And yet we know that both those funds are insolvent. And within another 12, 15 years, we're going to have a problem there. So why wouldn't we have taken another $500 million and put it in ERB and another $500 million put it in PERA? Because of no one's fault, by the way. This is just actuarial work that was not good, number one, and done years and years ago. And guess what? We're all living longer now. And we're drawing on those funds more than we anticipated that we would. So why wouldn't we, when we have money, shore up those funds? We didn't put money in the permanent fund. We didn't put money in the retirement funds because it's not sexy. It's not a need right now. It's not a gun bill. It's not a health care bill. It is not working with people who don't have money or don't have meals, or maybe people who are not even citizens here that we found some way to fund to make sure that they're taken care of. And I want everyone to be taken care of, don't get me wrong, but in a proper fashion. So I just want to preface what we've done here last year and this year by saying we spent money in the wrong places. I always say it's not the money we spend, it's how we spend the money. And we do a terrible job of spending money. Senate Finance worked very hard this year for all of the bills, no offense to the House again, John, or Harlan or anybody, or Jim. There was the budget came over, and we had to do some work on that as well. And we don't always see eye to eye, but quite frankly, the Republicans in both the House and the Senate are pretty much lockstep on this stuff. We see that money needs to go to places that are of need to New Mexicans, and not sexy or the topic of the day program that needs millions of dollars to. We don't know if it works, but we're going to try it anyway. New Mexico is a great test bed for that. We kind of jokingly called it Little California because if it's being done out there, by that wonderful governor and being $70 billion in debt right now, and he keeps giving money away to non-citizens. We seem to be slowly moving in that direction as well. And sometimes, for all of us in the trenches, not so slowly. So anyway, I don't want to belabor that point, but we don't look at things from a business standpoint. We look at things from a public sector, and I don't want to upset anyone who's in the public sector. But if you've never had a business and you've never tried to make a payroll, and you haven't signed payroll checks, and you haven't had to work with people coming in and out of your business, you really don't understand, unless you've worked with somebody in a business, why this happens. And here's the thing that bothers me. More and more, both in the House and Senate, less business people and more public sector folks who run nonprofit organizations and things of that nature. We may have attorneys who are the comptrollers and directors for nonprofit organizations. And no offense to attorneys, but one of the big deals we need to do in New Mexico is tort reform, in my opinion. But there's just not enough business people in the Senate, in the House, and in state government. And so when you're looking, you're not only looking for conservative folks, but you need to look for folks who are in the private sector, who make a living running or owning a business. That should give you a great indication of who you should be voting for as well. 9 times out of 10, I can guarantee you, if they own a business, they're conservative by nature. So, with all of that said, budget this year, last year was a $9.6 billion in a state that has 2.2 million people, and where 50% of our population is on some form of subsistence. And in 22 or 23, 80% of all childbirth was Medicaid childbirth. So I'm just telling you, we're trying to put this in perspective for people, and you debate these issues in other bills on the floor of the Senate and on the House, and it's like glazed over look. It's like you just beating your head against the wall. It is really something, and that's why it is important to have people who are willing to debate and who are willing to work within the committees to try and change these bills and either get rid of them or soften them to the point where they don't have nearly as much impact on us as we unfortunately get out of many of these things. 1.3 billion non-reoccurring funds, including $220 million for roads and maintenance. That's part of the good part of this budget that we passed. All trust to support future spending. 3% pay increase for all state employees. $50 million for evidence-based programs for reading, math, and science. How many times have you heard how bad we are in public education? And I'm not knocking any teacher or any administrator. I'm just saying that the programs that PED is putting together and forcing down the line, quite frankly, many of them are not working, and yet we continue to fund them, and sometimes they ask for increases in that funding. And we fight that vehemently. But again, we've got 15, and they've got 27, and you guys are in about a 15 deficit on the House side. It's hard to keep some of this stuff up. They did fund public education meals, and there's a lot more talk about career technical education. That's what many of us know as VOTEC, or career education. We're trying to get that more and more prevalent, not only in public education, but also in higher education. There's so many people this day and age want a career, but they don't want a degree. And we're asking, especially the junior colleges and the branches, to be more involved in VOTEC. And they are, career tech. When I get I'm still saying marijuana, not cannabis, so old school. Anyway, also in the health department, health department is actually the largest agency in the state. PED, their new budget is about $4.45 billion.
Oh, that's crazy.
And the health department is just under $4 billion, if I remember correctly, right around the $4 billion mark. However, when you match funds, because New Mexico gets more federal funds for healthcare than any other state per capita in the United States, their budget is actually $12 billion.
That's crazy.
$12 billion for a state that has 2.3 million people there. There are needs, and I'm not knocking the needs. But what are we doing to change the needs? We don't pass legislation that gives people, as we say, a hand up. We don't pass legislation to create job programs and things like that. We're too busy giving it away. And we've got to get better at that. We kind of jumped into, and because we're in the minority, of always playing defense. And we do a great job of defense. I can't tell you the number of filibusters that we have done on the Senate floor. But the point being is that we have got to start changing our mindset and looking positively rather than negatively. We need to have massive tax reform in the state. We need to have tort reform. And if we could get those two things done, we could set a foundation to really move New Mexico forward. And that's what two of the things I think that we really need to look forward to. Debating on the floor is one thing. Trying to debate attorneys who are very good at their job that we're going to change their income is a little bit tough as well. But I think we're all up for the challenge. We just need to do things like that. We need to take on anybody who is afraid to change their situation, because New Mexico is not moving forward. Public education, I think I mentioned, is 2.43. It's a 6.1 increase. I love supporting education. I really do. We have some incredible teachers, pretty good administrators in many cases. I'm not a big fan of the public education department. It's a huge bureaucracy where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and we just keep pumping money and more money into it, and we need to change. And there is a movement on to get rid of the PED department and go back to a state board of education. I'm not familiar with the state board of education was here before. I know it seemed to not work, but I can tell you the PED is not working, and I'm ready to change and try anything at this point in time. We need to seriously look at something like that. If nothing else, maybe it'll shake up the state and the administration to realize that people out here in the rank and file who have kids in school and who are paying for grandkids to do lessons and all this other stuff, maybe they will start to hear us. Sometimes you just have to be a little more radical than you want to be to get some things done. Some of the good news, I will tell you, money went to a lot of good things. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good things in the budget. A lot of things I don't like, but a lot of good things in the budget. And we talked a little bit about the tax package, and there were some good things in the tax package. And as a sidebar, I will tell you that I worked for about 8 to 10 years to try and get the income tax taken off military retirement in the state. And we won that victory about 2 years ago. And as she was signing the bill, she had it on a sunset. Now, wait a minute. How many times have I tried to explain this to her? People in the military, as we all know, move every 2 years. They're mandated to do that. Every 2 years. So when you put 20, 25 years in, do you want to go to a state that tells you within 3 years all your benefits go away, so I'm going to have to move again? No, it defeats the purpose of that. So we've had the folks who are here, the veterans who are here, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for your service. Every one of them are reaping some benefits right now. But we're not finished. We need to get this done. And they did take the sunset off of it, and they included the spouses, which was not in the original bill. Well, it's in my original bill, taken out at the same time they put the sunset on it. So now we have veterans who at least have a place where they can call home. They can set up shop here and come and start their second careers here. And they do have second careers. It's not like us old guys who are, old and get Social Security and maybe don't do a whole lot. These guys and gals are 42 to 46 years old. They're at the peak of their careers. They've managed hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people. They've had budgets of millions and millions of dollars. They know exactly how to do things. They're management people. Texas and Florida and Tennessee beg for these people to stay in their states. And we don't realize the value of these folks. And we need to realize the value of our veterans because they can make this a better state. And we don't have an employment pool. That's why Tesla didn't come here and others have not come here, because we don't have an educated, well-versed and career-oriented employment pool. But that's exactly what the veteran, the 25-year-old veteran brings to the state of New Mexico. So if we can get them to stay here by taking off their income tax, then they can stay here. They will, I can guarantee you, they will start a business themselves, or they will go to work for someone in some kind of management capacity. And when we didn't get anything from them when they were here for 2 years at Harlan, because they stayed on base, they had another state as their home state, so all taxes went there. We virtually got not a lot of economic benefit out of them other than Harlan being here, and we all really appreciate that. When they retire and come here, they buy a house. We get property taxes. 2-income households, we tax both of those. All their goods and services, for the most part, are bought in New Mexico. It makes sense to bring those people here and increase the population by hiring veterans and making sure that they have the benefits that other states have here in this beautiful state we call New Mexico. So we were able to get that done, and we still have a little work to do because the cap, which is $30,000, you don't pay any taxes up to $30,000 off on your retirement. Over and above that, we need to just remove the cap, because there are a lot of folks who make a whole lot more than that in their retirement pay, and we need to make sure that those folks are welcome here in the state of New Mexico as well. We talked a little bit about the permanent fund and ERB. A couple of quick things on bills that have already been mentioned. The 14-day bill, we whacked it down to 7. In fact, I think you guys did that in the House originally. Now, we tried to get it down to 3, and we hit a brick wall on that. So we debated that bill for 3 hours on the Senate floor. Crystal Diamond Brantley ran an amendment to that. And what it said was, if you get a restraining order against your spouse or significant other, you should be able to go right then and there and go purchase a weapon for your personal defense. I'm sitting on the Senate floor, and I've been there 14 years, and I know these people. And there are people who rail about minority women being mistreated and about indigenous women and their deaths. And these are horrible things that they're talking about. I'm agreeing with that portion of it. They're talking about people who are abused within their relationship. And we ran a bill to help people who are in trouble in their marriage protect themselves, and not one of them voted in favor of that amendment. So imagine the level of hypocrisy that we deal with on top of everything else that we deal with. That is just absolutely amazing to me. And I'm sitting there looking as we took the vote, and there's 4 particular women, I won't call their names out, but who champion those issues, and they're all doing this when they vote. They're looking down because they know this was a good amendment and it could have been used properly, but they're lockstep with the Democrat Party, and they had a caucus earlier in the day, and they told they would vote for this, no amendments, and that's exactly what we got. So, just as all the folks who spoke before me are trying to bring up to speed and get you to understand a little bit more of what we deal with, I want you to understand that too, because there's so much hypocrisy from that side of the fence. We just have to figure out a way to continue to work with these people. There are a few good ones over there, and because of that, they got 11 votes to stop a bill, which was probably one of the worst bills I've ever seen in 14 years. That would have literally gutted small business in the state of New Mexico. Because there was no choice. It wasn't a choice.
It was employers must pay, employees must pay, and then it is under the umbrella of Workforce Solutions. Workforce Solutions is the second worst agency in the state of New Mexico. If you remember about, pre-COVID, around the COVID time, they weren't getting checks out quick enough. So the secretary said, write the checks. And all of a sudden they're $120 million short in their budget. How do you do that? I mean, no one's in the driver's seat, unfortunately. And I think the secretary now lives in Indiana. I don't know where he went, but he didn't stay in New Mexico for very long. Anyway, those are just, again, some of the many, many things that we have to deal with here. And I don't want you necessarily to feel the pain or say, woe is me or anything like that. But understand that we're willing to, every 2 to 4 years, get reelected, go up there and fight those same battles again and again, because we're going to get a few victories out of the thing, just like we did with the Medical Family Leave Act. So the best I can tell you to do is please pray for us, number one. Number two, support us in any way, shape, or form that you can. And participate in the experience. And I want to thank Vicki and Lori and the folks that put together the brand new Otero Day in Santa Fe. We have been asking for that for 2 or 3 years, and I know it takes some time to kind of organize people and get it together, but they put on a great show, a great reception, and then the breakfast the next morning where we all got grilled for, we thought, maybe an hour and a half, maybe an hour, and I think 2.5 hours later we finally finished up. But it was great, it was really good. Point being is, it's not just us being up there, folks. You got to participate in this process. Come up, see what we deal with every day. We'll get you on the floor. We'll give you a tour of the Roundhouse. It has fabulous art in it. But just as important is meet some of the people who are the decision makers up there so that we can be farther up the list when we need something down here. I will tell you that our friends up in Lincoln, Harlan knows, and that's part of my district. They put on a great reception up there. And if they ever call and ask the governor for a little time, they get in. When you come up, we'll make time for you. We need to be in the same boat. We need to have our mayor, our city and county commission and our chamber of commerce and concerned citizens going up and visiting with the decision makers to let them know that we are listening, we're watching, and we count. And they need to help us out from time to time.
Make sure you give me your number. I've been trying to get up there.
There you go. Let me know your number. I mean, I'll give it to you. I got lots of numbers, by the way.
No, I want to come direct to you.
Gosh, I always say stand back because I'm a politician who's been in radio for all these years, so I hope I haven't bored you to tears to death. But as a final note, I just want to say thank you to Ron Griggs for his service in the Senate and the state of New Mexico. He and I both are not the big debaters necessarily. We will ask questions and we will work on bills and both in the committees and on the floor. But let me tell you, this guy has done some landmark legislation. He did a piece of legislation for liquor laws in the state of New Mexico. We haven't even seen the benefit to that. And I'm not saying, well, that's great because we're all going to be able to drink and all that stuff. I'm saying that it opened the door to moving New Mexico forward when it comes to liquor laws. If you ask any company that wants to come into New Mexico as a chain restaurant, as a hotel or anything like that, they won't come here because there are no liquor licenses available that they need, because these guys have all bought them up and they sit on them and they make a ton of money off of that, and more power to them. That's just business. But he was able to crack that egg a little bit and open the door to some things that, as time goes on, will allow more and more of these businesses to come into the state. And wouldn't it be nice to have more amenities in the state of New Mexico? Whether the restaurants, hotels, or whatever the case may be. you know, and there wasn't a whole lot of talk or a big deal about that. But that, quite frankly, was landmark. That was huge. And he's done some other things like that as well. And I just want to say thank you to Ron publicly, because he and I work so well together on the floor, and he's done a great job. And I just want people to know how hard he has worked for you guys here in Otero County. Thank you, Ron. That's all I got. Thank God. Yeah, you guys finished. But I will tell you to please get out and vote. And I mean again, not just you, and don't sit on the couch and think everybody else is going to vote. You got to get out and vote. You got to get a friend, your neighbor, whoever it is. If you live in a conservative neighborhood, take 3 or 4 of your neighbors to vote. Make sure they all get that done. It's critically important. Thank you all, and God bless you each and every one.
Thank you, Senator. Now, I just want to remind everybody, every one of these representatives and senators here need signatures to be able to get on the ballot. So before you leave, please, will you sign those petitions? So, and Ron Griggs, Senator Griggs, will you please come on up? And then right after he finishes speaking, we're going to have a little Q&A where you see the little red microphone. If you'll make a little line after Senator speaks, and will all the representatives and the senators come up here for the Q&A? Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I've got some stuff down there, but I decided they talked about a lot of it, so I'm gonna ad-lib a little bit and go from there. Hit on Senate Bill 3, which was Paid Family and Medical Leave Act. One other thing about that particular bill is ultimately they were going to have to hire about 230 people in Workforce Solutions to implement that bill. Now, Workforce Solutions, as you've heard, is about the second most challenged department in state government, with CYFD being the most challenged. And so you're going to have 230 more people to help administer this program, but then those people also will be subject to the Paid Family and Medical Leave Act as well. So I don't know how many people you're gonna need, and I don't know how that bill will work. That bill is flawed from the get-go, and real quick about it, there's 32 pages in the bill. Not necessarily a whole lot, 32 pages. 30 pages were what we identify as new material, meaning it hadn't been in law. And so you would think with a bill of that importance that should go through the judiciary committees of one or more of the houses. The bill was actually introduced last year, and it didn't see a judiciary committee last year. It didn't see a judiciary committee this year. There's things in the bill, definitions like we've already talked about, affinity and other things that make the bill problematic. And so even if you were a proponent of the bill, you should have been wanting that bill to be vetted in such a way where the bill would be effective when it was passed. But that's not what we got. And fortunately, and I'll applaud those members in the House for stepping up, standing up, and doing the right thing, because that was just too important. But just so everybody here understands, they've already said it's coming back next year. So through the interims, we got to work hard on that thing to be sure it at least is not as bad as it is today. Now, I've got to talk a little bit about Representative Vincent, because he's obviously learned how to debate and spend time in front of the microphone. Because I've never heard him speak that much. I mean, you guys, I don't know, but he's getting better at it, obviously. He's a questionable basketball player, but again, the House did win. The House did win the first time in 6 years, but they won. So everybody needs to understand that the Senate ruled the roost for that length of time. And, you know, they brought in little brawnier, bulkier guys like Harlan, and you gotta understand the Senate had one guy, he's Jerry Ortiz Pino, he's 80 years old, and he's out there playing. And Jerry got rolled up on a little bit. And I was really afraid he wasn't gonna get up, but that's what happens in that particular basketball game. You'd love to believe Representative Townsend has enough sense not to be out there, as Senator Burt and I do. I mean, you know, my knees, I want to keep them, but Jerry did, and you know, next year we'll see. I won't be there, but I'll be with the Senate in spirit, because if all goes well, we're just going to kick your. Anyway, that's where it's going to be. It'll be fun. It'll be a great game to watch. It does generate lots of money. And a lot of cool things go on with that. You guys, it's been one of the greatest deals for me to be able to represent all of you in the Senate for this past 12 years. I've got through the end of this year, and then I'm gonna go do other things. But you know, you guys stay on top of stuff, continue to support your legislative delegation, because we need that. We need to hear from you. We need to be able to talk to you about issues that come up. The bill on the detention centers, that was a big deal for Otero County. They were going to actually phase that out, where you could not house ICE detainees effective in 2025. Otero County at that point would still owe about $22 million on the facility down in Chaparral. I don't know how they would have been able to pay that back, because they wouldn't have been able to have that contract if this law was passed and the federal government adhered to it. So members of the House, members of the Senate lobbied hard on certain members in the Senate to be able to get their support to stop the bill. We stopped the bill for the second time. We stopped it last year, we stopped it this year. Last year it was by 2 votes, this year it was by 3. They're not going away with some of these things. These ideas are philosophical in nature. They don't believe this, they don't believe that, so they're going to continue to push those on you and those members of the Senate and the House that don't agree with them. And you guys, they believe some of this stuff. It's not like, you know, they're doing it because of you know, somebody's telling them. A lot of times it's doing it because they believe it's the way it ought to be, and they're just confused. They're just confused. And most of the time they're just flat wrong. So when you look at this legislature, the New Mexico legislature, it's 45 to 25 in the House, it's 27 to 15 in the Senate. We're going to keep these seats down here. It's important that we have these seats down here. Where we have a chance to make up seats is in the Rio Grande corridor, in Albuquerque, and possibly even in Las Cruces. We got to have your help getting to people like wherever Elizabeth is back here. Get Elizabeth. Elizabeth, where are you? Anyway, okay. Elizabeth is running against a Democrat named Willie McGridd, and Willie was part of the group that stopped the takeover, the removal of the ICE facility. But Willie votes with the Democrats most of the time, and that's just not what we can have. We have to have somebody that votes with us most of the time. And the more of those people we have, the more inroads we make to make New Mexico the state we know it can be. And it's just important that those people in Albuquerque see it, feel it, and recognize what has happened, what is happening, because they saw it this year. They saw the issues with guns that they didn't support. They saw the issues with paid family and medical leave act. They saw the issues with clean fuel standards. They saw some of the stuff with oil and gas that's designed to stop the revenue stream that the state gets. So hopefully they will hold their representatives and their senators accountable for those things. And if they will, the chances are that we will do much better in this election and have the opportunity. I'd love to say we're gonna take control, but at least we'll have the opportunity to close the gap. And when you close the gap, when we talk about 45 to 25 or 27 to 15, well, if you close that gap in half, that changes the makeup in committees. That means those guys have to be in committees. They can't leave that committee like they do right now, just anytime they want to. It's a whole different arrangement once you close the gap. And my hope is that we can do that, because these guys need as much help as they can get. John can argue until he's blue in the face, so can Harlan, so can Jim. But at some point the clock clicks and they can't argue anymore. And the guys win the vote at that point. And so that's where the goal is to keep as much bad stuff from ever making it to the floor, or ever making it to the floor in time to be voted on. They did, as Jim said, they did this year the best job I've seen them of orchestrating where things were. Because they were ready this time, they had them there, everything was in position to pass. But people realize too that, these are not good bills. They also realize they gotta run for re-election. They can't have a vote or take a vote that then they're not running for 3 years. So they're not accountable right away. Or they don't have it that next term, so they're not accountable right away. Maybe you'll forget about it. Those are the realities of the system. And so as we go forward, it's certainly my hope and my belief that as you guys talk to your friends and neighbors, people you know across this state, you can help have influence on those people in Albuquerque or in Las Cruces. Because we just have to. If we don't, again, John and Harlan and Jim kind of left them out on an island. Because 45 to 25 is a big deal. Victories aside, 45 to 25 is a big deal. And it just makes it harder and harder and harder to stay the course and do the things that we need to be done, have done. And I applaud the guys for doing the job that they did, because they worked awfully hard. They stayed up awfully late. They did the things necessary as far as they could. Our job now, as Republicans, is to elect more and more Republicans statewide. So maybe what we're gonna have, we don't have to be on defense. Maybe we can be on offense, and maybe we can have the chance to govern the state of New Mexico. We haven't had that in 90 plus years. Maybe we could get it, and maybe we could change New Mexico for the better. That's the hope. That's the hope that all of you should have. Because we can do that. We can. But we've got to have those guys in that corridor help us. Help anybody you know see the light that way. Because these people don't really represent them. They represent an idea, a philosophy, they represent something. But they don't represent the people of New Mexico. It's time to change. It's time for New Mexico to get put on the right track. So you guys, I've been honored to have represented you. And I appreciate your vote, your support. all of those things that have gone along with that. I appreciate Bill saying the things that Bill has said tonight, because it's been important to me to do a good job for you. And I've done the best job I know how. So y'all, I appreciate it. Thank you for being here tonight, and let's go win in November.
Thank you, Ron, for your service for over a decade. Johnny Powell. Johnny Powell has a very short and small announcement.
Thank you, JP. Good evening. Thank you, everybody. I have a real quick announcement. First, I just want to point out a couple of things. One, icy hot, biofreeze. Lori, these are your friends. Harlan, JP, let me know how that affinity thing works out. I'm really curious about that. And the final thing that I will is, Senator Burt, you're exactly right. I had a guy, an old boss of mine tell me, you get up early in the morning, you think about what you're going to do on your day, you go out on the back porch and you throw up, and then you go start your day. And so if you've never owned a business, it really needs to be a prerequisite. These guys are doing a fantastic job of bringing the legislation down here. I want to give you a story about something that we're doing grassroots. Starbase Harlan. Everybody go home and look up DOD Starbase and look at this program. It reaches out, it touches every fifth grader out there. Alamogordo Public School Systems have bought into it. Tularosa School Systems bought into it. It's a commander program out at Holloman. The foundation has been asked, by the way, I'm the International Space Hall of Fame Foundation. I'm the president of the foundation. We actually have some board members here. Joan is a board member. Jean Galassini is a board member. We appreciate that. But Starbase Holloman is coming. We're going to be the administrator of that program. We're going to be hiring the educators that do that and that administrator. And we're going to tie this in with the programs that we have at the museum. So we've got a big thing coming up. So June 29th, this is the announcement. Put this in your calendars. We will do some event. We're 10,000 feet looking down at it right now, but it'll either be at the fairgrounds or it'll be at the Tays. It'll be the 3rd annual Big Bang. You guys have heard of the Big Bang Festival that we started putting on a couple of years ago. The Big Bang will be the public announcement and launching of Starbase. We will have our staff up and going and ready to start educating kids this fall. And so it's very, very aggressive to put that in there. But this is all funded by DOD and grassroots. It's being operated by the folks here. And it is a relationship between a private company, a foundation, the Holloman Air Force Base, and the local public school system, PED. All these players that you've heard talked about tonight, we're actually getting it done and bringing STEM education in that next generation that our employers need of critical thinkers. We need that, and this program starts creating those critical thinkers again. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. June 29th, come see it. Big announcement. Become a foundation member, spacehallfame.org. Let me know how to fit.
Okay, so it's Q&A time. Does anybody interested in asking some questions from any of these elected officials? Right there's a little red microphone. Even got a little seat for you to sit in.
Thank you.
And then if you'll call on whoever it is by name, so they know to come up here and.
Turn the switch on top, unless somebody moved it. There you go.
Testing. I'm not this question, or actually there's two, to be addressed. Maybe one member from the House, one from the Senate. I would be curious to know if there are any pieces of legislation that was passed this session that will equate to a question on the ballot this November that the voters will make some sort of decision on, AKA a constitutional amendment or anything like that. And I'd also appreciate somebody from probably the House and or the Senate commenting as to what discussion and or debate was as far as salaries for legislators. Thanks.
Senators, representatives?
I'll tell you real quick, I was hoping Representative Townsend would come up here, and he probably still will if we get him, but as far as the, salaries for legislators, I personally don't want that. And, it came up last year, I didn't hear it this year on the floor. There were so many bills, I'm not saying that there wasn't one of those bills, do you remember, John?
There was, but it died.
Okay, so it died, and I just think from the way I wanna tell you is, I like going up there and doing what we're doing the way it is now, because I think if you start paying people, you're gonna have the same bureaucratic problems as you're having in Washington, and they're gonna be lazy. And we are not motivated right now to be lazy. There's no lazy people that I know of on the Republican side. Everybody is pulling their weight, some pulling more than their weight. And if you start paying them, what do y'all think's gonna happen? I don't know. I just think that it'll be more bureaucracy, and people will be wanting to stay up there and get paid for it. So that's all I know about that. As far as your first question was, ballot stuff. So I did personally run a bill, I'm trying to think of what bill it was, can't think of it off the top of my head. But we were gonna try to put drop boxes at every, polling location. And then at 7 o'clock at night, once the line was formed, nobody else could get in the line, and it had to be a bipartisan party, so there had to be a Republican and a Democrat. And as soon as the line was done, they had to lock the box up together, mark it, and then take it inside. And it never saw the light. So that's the only voting bill that I know of.
Actually, I was gonna
There
ask.
were no joint resolutions passed.
There were.
There are no joint resolutions on the governor's desk that would be a ballot.
If you have a question, right at the hot seat.
Get up there, right?
Good evening, bless everybody. My first question is to the gentleman. And you have spoken about the beef flap meat, which I have a big concern, because you'll be surprised how much research I do on everybody and everything. And when I say everybody, it's all politicians, all parties. When you mention lab meat, I don't know if most of you all know that the lab meat is, it's even being printed, it's not real meat.
You're talking lab created meat.
Right.
That's not what he was.
Oh, that's not,
No,
okay.
ma'am.
Oh,
No, I never said lab.
I was like-
I did not say lab meat. I might
All
have said
right.
jackrabbit meat, but not lab meat.
Okay, and the next one is from Mr. Townsend. You had spoken about, because I take notes too. You spoken about, you came from Roswell, New Mexico? Mhm. And you spoken into some part about caregivers, the providers, not caregivers, but providers. And I have been working on an issue, and this happened to my husband 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, which now we go back to the gentleman that I got your number, because I've been trying to go to the convention and state, to get involved, because I do get involved a lot, believe me, a lot, whether it's New Mexico, whether it's Texas, whether it's wherever, because to me, there shouldn't be no jurisdiction. Yes, we do have representation from various, senators, governors, or whatever. But when there's a criminal activity, and I'm gonna say criminal activity because a lot of people don't bring this up, and this is a criminal activity and is nationwide. When I say what am I talking about? Well, and this relates a lot to the seniors mostly. We all know that in 2020, a lot of elderlies were dead because of the COVID supposedly. But like I said, because due to experience on my husband, it necessarily didn't happen that way, sir, with due respect. There is criminal activity within hospitals, doctors, attorneys, law enforcement, etc., etc. And I have proof to prove it. I'm not just saying this for, allegations. But where I'm getting at all this is that I've been trying to reach whoever, and there should be one out there, that really true believes in the Lord, because this is justice that should be already applied to all the ones that are involved. And when I say that is because it's just like a web of a lot of individuals, that are into this type of activity. And it's not right that us hardworking people, we just end up, in the hospital, okay, now you're kidnapped, and now you're taken, and you're put into a nursing home, and now you're dead. Because that's what happened to my husband. And it hasn't just happened to my husband, it has happened to millions of people. So my question to you is, why is it that this activity is never mentioned anywhere? Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I did speak earlier today in Roswell. I live in Artesia, just to set the record.
Microphone.
How's that?
Awesome.
Normally they tell me to shut up, don't speak loud. I did speak earlier today. When I was talking about healthcare providers, I was talking about a bill, SB 17, that supported hospitals.
Right.
Your question and your concern on healthcare providers is a problem.
And hospitals.
It's a problem all over New Mexico. If you look at, in fact, I had a meeting just before I came in here this afternoon with a gentleman who had similar issues. HSD, CYFD, MDD is a mess. And I don't know, there's no good way to describe it other than our state government today is not functioning very well. If you have tried to call the state for a new license for your vehicle, to get a tax question answered, to talk about healthcare, it's unbelievable. You'll get a recording that says, please leave a message. Everybody's on the phone, and we'll be back to you within 24 to 72 hours. I got that yesterday on a call from me. That's ridiculous. These people work for you.
That's right.
And we have to get them back to work. The quickest way, and I don't mean to be so blunt, but the quickest way to get that to change is to encourage everybody to go vote. And I'm not pushing it off. I'm telling you, if you have a problem and I can help you with, Harlan, I, John, Bill, Ron, we'll all help any way we can. And we'll do it. But I will tell you that the problem that you're talking about is a problem that's all over New Mexico, and quite frankly, probably all over the
It's
United States.
nationwide.
It is.
But the thing is, sir, with due all respect, I'm gonna say politicians now. Politicians, you normally don't see them, only before election time, because they all want your vote, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, you vote for them, I promise you I'm gonna do this, and I promise you I'm gonna do that. And once in office or in seat, what happens? You can't even get a hold of them. Why? Because they're so important and I'm not gonna be so direct
Yeah.
with you.
No, go.
You know.
You're not gonna hurt my feelings.
They,
I'm in
they get their
politics.
hair out, you know, with a title, because that's how they obtain a title for representation for us, the people. And then yet, I mean, like, I'll tell you this much, I even have the cards to prove it, that how many times I've gone to the DA's office, how many times I've gone to the police department, the FBI, you name it, and even senators and governors. But what I'm saying is that you said vote. Well, who guarantees us again if it's not gonna be rigged again? Well, the way I do, like I said, I do a lot of research. I even presented, I'm gonna say, the Declaration of Independence to these politicians, you know, which it states very clearly, if you're not for the people, you're not gonna do your job, get out. You know, that's the way I see it. If you're not gonna work for us, it's just like you get hired in a business and they hire you and you're not gonna do their job, you think you're not gonna get fired? I think we should fire them. If they can't produce, you know, the job, out.
That's what your vote, that's
I
why
will-
you vote.
But
I
that's
will
the
tell
thing,
you that
that's the thing, the vote, a lot of times, you know, if it's rigged again,
Last year, I believe it was last year on the House floor, they were talking about raises for legislators. And I said on the House floor, we were being paid about what we're worth.
I work in the elections department,
Yeah.
and let me tell you
And
what I've
when-
seen.
When we're last in education, when we have all of these metrics that New Mexico performs so poorly at, I have a hard time paying legislators for that. I'll just be real honest, that's just the way it is. I don't believe that's the way it should be. But your ability to come forward and ask people that represent you why they did this, or why they did that, or why they voted this way, or why they voted that way, that's what makes the system better. And I applaud you for doing it. I mean,
And I'm not gonna stop either.
you shouldn't stop, but
I'm persistent.
at this, I will tell you that if you don't like the answers you're getting, run for office.
I have tried, but, you know, I have tried it, but let me tell you, I even took the courage, sir, by myself, at my age, going all the way to Washington.
I think you're
when
younger
Trump
than I
was-
am, don't give me Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Steve?
Just, I really don't have a question for any of them. I spent lots and lots of hours at work, on the computer, watching these guys in committees and on the floor and stuff like that. And they did a tremendous job on what they got accomplished and what they got killed. So, my hat's off to you guys. You've done a very good job. The other thing I wanted to point out is there's a lot of people within Otero County that also were or going to be recipients of capital outlay money, thanks to your legislators here. So, again, thank you for doing that. Appreciate it very much.
Hello, my name's Kim. I've been a resident of Alamogordo all my life. And I saw the truth the minute Trump went down the escalator. And a lot of people didn't like him. And it made me curious why. And I really started listening to him. And even my family was against him. And some of them still are. And I've been persecuted because of it. But I heard the truth. He's an honest man. Of course, he's human. He makes mistakes. But my concern is that the schools are taking it upon themselves, one in particular, to brainwash our kids with the mainstream media. It's called CNN 10, where they watch the news every day. And I don't trust the mainstream media because it is not completely the truth. And they mix the truth with lies, which makes it all lies. And I'm wondering if this CRT that we're trying to fight is part of, if a bill could be passed or a law that will protect our kids from that type of brainwashing.
Great.
John Block.
I'll take that one. It's a good question.
Very good.
It's a very, very good question. I share your concerns wholeheartedly. We actually, last year, I've only been here for a couple of years. Last year and this year, we both years put forward pieces of legislation to do just that, to ban critical race theory from any state agency that includes PED. So that never got a hearing last year, and it never got a hearing this year. And that's because the establishment, people who are empowered, they don't want to take it out, because it's a very good tool to recruit Democrats to win in the future. So, quite frankly, it's brainwashing, like you said, and so we are fighting hard against that. So there were a few bills this year that would actually have increased CRT in places like social workers. It would have mandated CRT training for every single social worker. I heard that in my committee. That never got a hearing on the floor because it was so crazy. I don't even think the Democrats would have voted for that. So that's a good thing that happened, but we are trying to fight it as much as we can. I know our school board, we just elected 3 new great school board members. We have one that just got appointed, so now we have all 5 are conservatives who are anti-CRT, and so we're blessed by that. So they're doing what they can locally. And also, on another question, the last question from Steve back there, I don't know where he is, but he asked about the constitutional amendments. There will be one question on the ballot, and it's essentially to change the Constitution to allow the UNM president of the law school not to have to be at every judicial review board meeting, because that's mandatory in the Constitution. That just takes that out. And then last year I was a co-sponsor of some of the resolutions that we passed to increase the tax deduction for veterans who are disabled, and then all veterans who are retired, and that would be on the ballot this November. So hopefully that helped.
Well, I'm gonna call an end to this. We'll do one last one, and after that, we're gonna call it into this. We have runners.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'll face here since Senator Griggs is my senator and everything like that. No, Robert Gable, I'm from Chaparral, so I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, you bet. I just wanted to share a couple things, and I brought this first so I'll remember. For those of us who are in District 53, please vote. Give Elizabeth Winroad your vote. I live in District 53. Representative Madrid has been my representative since what happened with Little, and he won that election, so we won't get into that and stuff. But if you can please do that. For some reason, Elizabeth did win in the last election. She won in Donna Ana, which to me was kind of strange, because Donna Ana and the city and area is more liberal and stuff. But she won Donna Ana. She lost Otero by 130 votes. And I live in Chaparral, and I'm almost going to firmly believe that most, if not all, of those votes came from Chaparral. I think I want to do better than just winning those extra 130 votes in Donna Ana. I want to take back and go beyond those 130 votes in Otero. We need, everybody here, we need your help over there. You need our help from there. You need our help here. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. For us, it's not about the power. For another party, we'll talk about it's about the power. But we need to be in this together. And there's so much division. And we've got to stop it in order to get someplace. We need to do it. I volunteer with Convention of States, and I personally want to thank the representatives for. Can I ask what our representatives have heard of Convention of States? And where does everyone stand?
Support. I co-sponsored the bill.
Yeah. I want to thank Representative Block for him and Representative Pettigrew and Mason all sponsored the Convention of States. What Convention of States is, we want to see term limits brought to our U.S. Congress.
Yes.
That term limits does not just include the U.S. Congress, but the term limits to the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy that writes all the bills and the laws. It's the bureaucracy, the ones that are hired by the Congress, whatever, to write the laws. And we want to bring term limits to them. We want to end this fiscal, mistaken by physical, it's got nothing to do with fiscal, but fiscal, financial irresponsibility. I listen on the news almost every week. It seems like they're putting in a new budget. They're just raising it all. And in New Mexico, we have to have a balanced budget, right? United States, we don't have a balanced budget. October of last year, we were $33 trillion in debt. USDebtClock.org. $33 trillion in debt. Now, we're already $34 trillion in debt. And it needs to end. And we want to also see an end to governmental overreach. Getting into our affairs, the border, our states and everything. Our states, a lot of them are ruled by the grants. Oh, let's hold this back, or let's get this or that, and everything. We want to see an end to that. And just to let you know where we stand on petitions, we have petitions that go to your representatives, and I've got a petition out there. But just to let you know, to send it to District 33, we had 927 petitions favoring a convention of states from your constituents. In District 34, 710 from constituents. 54, we had 425 from your constituents favoring a convention of states. From 51, 523 from your district favoring a convention of states. And from District 56, 611 from your district. We need more people. If you're not aware of Convention of States, I want you to be aware of Convention of States, because we're making a move. We're going to. I'm optimist, but I've also become a realist since 2020 and everything like that. But I believe it can be possible. We've got 19 states that have signed up for a Convention of States, that have signed up for the resolution to have a Convention of States. We need 34 states to have a Convention of States to talk over these amendments. And once those amendments are talked over, and I could get into everything, but 38 states need to ratify for it to become amendments. And this is it's through Article 5 of our great U.S. Constitution. Article 5 of our great framers said that we the people need to be able to propose amendments. All of the 27 amendments we have in our great U.S. Constitution, they've been done by U.S. Congress. The founders said that and they did this through Colonel George Mason and many others. How do we know that they're not going to get too big for their britches, that they're not going to want to do it themselves? So so through Article 5, they said we the people through our states can do a convention of states, and so that's why we're doing it through the states, that we can have a say in what our Congress is doing. So I just wanted to add that and say that, and I've got some of these in here, and again propose help Elizabeth, and thank you all. Thank you.
Because without you coming and without your support, we cannot be that machine to move. And thank you for representatives and senators for coming. And thank you for every other elected official that has come. Thank you.